Welcome back to the Puck Bunker. We're here for episode 5. I'm Rocco Zappia. This is my co-host Darren Boyce. Boyce, how you doing?
Great to see you, buddy. I'm doing well. How are you?
Not going to complain. Got to catch a couple games live this weekend and see some prospects that we'll chat about and some guys that we covered. So I saw Brampton and Ottawa on Friday night and got to see Porter Martone live and saw Chicoutimi in Gatineau today and got to see Guite and Huang and Gosling for Chicoutimi. So it was a good weekend.
What stood out for you for the two games?
This afternoon, not a whole lot stood out if I'm being completely honest. The referees took over that game a little bit today. Halfway through the second period, Chicoutimi had already taken 7 minors and Gatineau had none. And there was just more penalties throughout the game. The game never got any sort of flow to it. So the guys that I was there to watch, nobody looked particularly great today. But I think the referee must have had a case of the Sunday scaries because, oh my God, he couldn't put his whistle in his mouth fast enough. I was watching the game with a handful of scouts, some current NHL scouts and some former guys, and they were not not happy with the fact that there was really not a lot of 5-on-5 play. You don't really. It's tough to learn a whole lot about guys when the game never gets any flow to it. But it ended up being an overtime game, so the fans, it was an exciting game at least. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I saw any first rounders today.
Might have been a third game in 3 nights for the refs. Who knows?
Jeez, oh man! Even on plays where they didn't even call anything, you can see the one guy getting his jittery arm going, just dude, put it away. It's Sunday afternoon here. Let the kids play.
The man had enough. He'd had enough.
Yeah. Whatever. I left a couple minutes early. If I'm being honest, I had enough. But no, they did some good things. I mean, they have some tools that you like. Guite's got good size. For whatever reason, he can't get his offense going just yet. He produced a lot last year, and he put some points up at the Hlinka, but wasn't. I think he's rated properly by Central as a B. I think there was some talk of him earlier in the year or preseason even, that he could have been a first rounder. And you don't want to judge a guy off one game, especially a Sunday afternoon where the refs and he's not on their penalty kill, so he wasn't getting any shifts the first half of the game. So I feel bad. It's hard to say I didn't love his game when he really didn't have a chance to get into the game much. But he's got some tools. I mean, he's got good size. He can handle the puck well. So there's a reason that he's ranked as a B, but I'd have to take a look at both those guys again. It was one of those games. Sometimes you scout a game and you just have to throw it out for whatever reason. And a lot of times it's on a Sunday afternoon, whether it's a 3-on-3 for the teams, it's sloppy, or it's a game just full of penalties. And I don't know, not the greatest scouting game, but always worth going. You don't know unless you go. Martone. Oh, we featured him last episode, and I saw him probably live 3 times last year, and probably another 7 or 8 times on video between the Hlinka and the early parts of this season. And Friday night was not his best game. Not his best game, Darren. I came away with more questions than answers there. Unfortunately, because I was hoping to see what I've seen in so many highlights this year, and he was fighting it. He fought it all night.
In what way? Was he just behind the play? Was it just kind of slow? What did you see?
I mean, he was definitely, his foot speed is not very good, or at least wasn't that night. He just didn't have a lot of jump. Maybe 1 or 2 times he really got his feet going with the puck and was able to rush the puck and get some control with it. But some weird bounces, pucks would hit his stick that normally he would make a really nice play on, that got away from him somehow, and a puck would bounce right in front of his blade and hop over. Just some weird things that weren't really going his way. Just not his night. And it's not going to be your night every night, right? He's not gonna score 3 points a night all season long. There are gonna be some nights where he puts up 0 points and looks pedestrian. He looked like just another guy out there. But their whole like Rekhoff, he had a quiet night too, and he's been unbelievable for them all year. And there's no question about that guy's foot speed, right? So sometimes it's just not your night, and it wasn't his night Friday offensively, anyways.
Well, it is interesting when we, do a scouting report over video and then watch him play and kind of some of the flaws maybe we were looking at. You kind of see them live, right? Like
They stand out a little more in
yeah,
person.
like the concerns are warranted, I would say.
Yeah, and I talked to a scout today. We'll call him an anonymous source. We'll call him an anonymous source, but he's a former director of scouting for an NHL team, so the guy knows what he's doing here. And I asked him point blank, is Porter Martone a top 5 pick? And he said, unless he really looks like Ryan O'Reilly in the playoffs, and we can't judge that until the playoffs. He goes, but he would have to be absolutely dominant and absolutely driving that ship for them in a deep playoff run for him to be a top 5 pick in his mind. And he has a lot of the same concerns. It's how dominant is he right now because of his size, and how much is the skating maybe potentially going to hurt him at the NHL level when all the guys are skilled and most of them are your size. Most guys are 200 pounds. You know what I mean? That's an average size player.
Yep.
So when you have questions, I think, and the way he put it to me, he said, if you're picking in the top 10, that's a franchise changing pick, or should be. And not only that, it's your job on the line as a scout. He says, so what he said to me is, if you're picking a guy in the top 10 and especially in the top 5, you better be damn sure that you are getting a guy that's going to drive a line and a guy that is going to be the guy, right?
Well, that's what we mentioned that on the last episode, right? Like,
yeah,
you're picking in that spot. You don't, you're trying to take the guys with the least amount of flaws. Like, that's kind of what you're looking at, right? And if they have major things that jump out at you, like, you are right to be kind of concerned, or at least, have that concern at pick number 5. It might be a little bit different at pick 15, but pick 5, like,
it might be different at pick 6.
yeah, maybe.
Honestly, I think that the general public might underestimate how important guys keeping their jobs are, because these scouts,
They're human beings.
they make it like, you know what I mean? Like, these guys aren't getting paid $1 million a year. So, you have to make sure that you can put food on the table for your family. And if that honestly means passing up on a guy that might have a little bit of upside for a guy that you have no questions about, you see a lot of times people's like, oh, why are you taking like the quote unquote, like, every fan base hates the safe pick. You know what I mean? But a lot of times the safe pick ends up being the better pick, because a guy that has flaws actually doesn't end up panning out to his highest potential.
So maybe my Hensler 4th wasn't, that far off.
Well, we're gonna, the little giveaway there, Darren. But we're gonna do this show and probably one more episode, and then we're gonna have a show with our first set of rankings. And I think that's gonna be a big part of the conversation. A guy that you have no questions about, that maybe isn't putting up 2 million points, versus a guy that dominates physically against junior guys.
Yeah. Well, my question on him is something that, even if it doesn't come, he's still a good player. And, I think that's, again, you go into the safer pick thing, but I mean, there's a little more confidence in said GMs and scouting staff in that pick.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I don't think Martone's going to be a good player, because like lots of good players don't get picked in the top 5, right? It's only 5 guys get picked in the top 5. So if that, like, that's where the debate is for me. But I do think it's a debate, and I do think there's more debate on whether he belongs inside or outside the top 5 than I do inside or outside the top 3, which is what I've seen a lot of people talking about, and I've seen for me three guys that I'd be a lot more comfortable with for sure, at least 3.
I'm at 4, so
Oh, I'm at 4 or 5 too here, but yeah. And again, you don't want to put too much stock into one game. Like he has to have an off night eventually. And Friday night against Ottawa, his line, like it wasn't just him. And that's the thing. Like it wasn't like his other line mates like played great and he was just dog shit. The whole line was quiet, and that's a very high powered offensive line. And they just whatever. It just doesn't happen sometimes. So nice thing is it's Brampton. I'm gonna get to see them 5 more times this year, probably. So there's lots of time for me to because when you watch him on video, like his best games, he looks like little Brady Kachuk out there sometimes. But
yeah.
on a game where he's quiet, do you have are you affecting the game in other ways if you're not scoring? And
No, yeah.
And I definitely didn't see that.
I mean, they're kind of struggling now too, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how long that lasts. I think they've lost their last 3. They haven't been doing well lately, and they were supposed to be one of the top teams in that conference. So I think they're in 8th.
Well, it's a long season.
Oh, it's a
still
long
here.
season, absolutely. But I mean, you would have expected a little bit better out of them, for at least at this
Every
point.
team's gonna have slumps though. Like he's not like they're not gonna like every team probably will have, except maybe your London Knights, but every team
had
will
it.
have, well, there you go. Every team will have a streak where they lose 3, 4, 5 games in a row at some point in the year. Stanley Cup winners have 3, 4 game losing streaks at some point throughout the year. But I mean, they're not. Yeah, they've lost 1, 2, 3, at least their last 4 here that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the weekend. The weekend live viewings. So it's good to get out and see them. But now I feel like I need to make a point with. I mean, and Shikumi, that's fine. I'll try and see them again, but I don't think there's necessarily a first round there. So we're going to focus most of our attention probably on the top of the draft. But I'll definitely get to see Brampton a few more times and get to see Martone a few more times. But I do want to see some improvement in the quickness and the foot speed in the second half of the year.
Well, that's what we'll see if we see that coming in the next couple months when we watch them again. And then our rankings are going to change, right? That's
Probably 100 times.
So
they'll change daily throughout the second half of the season too. So we can get into a few guys where we have some video coverage here as well. So boys, if you want to start off, we can go out to Moncton, and there's a guy that's in that conversation for that inside that top 10, and I'll let you take it away.
All right, so we'll be looking at Caleb Desnoyers, and he is a April 2007 birthday, and he plays for the Moncton Wildcats. As of today, he has, or as of this taping anyway, has 14 games played. He has 12 goals, 12 assists, and 24 points, and he's a plus 20. So he's been pretty dominant out there. He's 6'2", 180 pounds, left shot centerman. He also played in the Holinka, and he was very noticeable in that tournament as well. So I'm just going through a little bit of the player. From my perspective, so from my perspective, I thought his skating was above average. I mean, he was very shifty, I guess, was what I saw with him. He's much more of a shifty skater, maybe, fast straight line speed. He's a solid skater, though. He has some decent speed. Not maybe the elite of the draft, but I mean, it's definitely good. Other things, he, again, pretty good defensive zone presence. He picks off a lot of passes, a ton of passes, from opposition defensemen, trying to break out. He causes a lot of problems for them. So he's good in the neutral zone. He's good in, in the defensive zone. He's good in the offensive zone. He picks off passes in all three zones, picks off pucks. Really good hand-eye. That was maybe the top skill I saw out of him. And that's not to say that his other skills were not, also very good, but he created a ton of, possessions for his team just by knocking down pucks and being disruptive. So that was really great to see. I thought his puck skills were pretty good too. Had some ability to manipulate space. As I said, he used his stick to gain the puck, very easily from the other team, which is again not that easy to do. Great hand-eye. Has a solid actually toe drag ability. Actually pulled that move off a couple times. It was pretty effective. Everything else with him was actually fairly good. His shooting was good. I think his shot was pretty good. I think it would be good enough for the professional level. Gets hard shots on net a lot. The junior goalies seem to have a tough time handling, his shot at times. He looks actively for deflections and himself to get in positions to deflect pucks. There's a couple instances in those clips where he's actually shooting the puck looking for, tips and deflections, which has been quite effective in getting him points. His passing and playmaking is very comfortable. Made solid passing off the rush. Had some ability to make some saucer passes in key situations. Wasn't really that panicked. Again, he is a junior player, so sometimes, they can force passes, but overall, I thought he was, pretty good in that regard. His offensive hockey sense is, again, it's not quite as good as his defensive hockey sense, I'd say. I think his defensive hockey IQ is quite good. But his offensive, IQ is, pretty good. He has 24 points in, 14 games, as I said there earlier. Makes pretty good, quick decisions. He finds space for passers to find him. Is really good in that regard. He can get himself open and guys will find him. Makes good rush passes for the most part. But in the two viewings I saw here recently, he was dangerous every time he was on the ice. And I think part of that is that he is gaining pucks from the other team, that they always end up having the puck because even if they give it away, he gets it back for them. And then he can create, has some good creativity himself once he has the puck. So he will make a good decision once he has it. Compete was very good. He's always hustling, trying to get the puck back. Even if he did kind of float at times, he kind of catches himself and gets back into the hustle. So even if that happened, he kind of kept battling. So that was good to see. And he's willing to use the body, but he's not, I think he wants to actually use his stick a lot more since it's so effective for him. But he will hit guys, and there's some instances where he actually, he will, take a run at a guy. Overall, I really liked him. I think he's another player that I think has a really high floor. I think absolute worst, this is a third line centerman. The other thing too is he's really good at faceoffs. So this is a player that I have no doubt will play in the NHL and be an effective player. The difference with him is I think there's a little more offensive upside if you compare him to some of the other high floor players that we're talking about. Then my next player is going to be Brady Martin. I think he has a little more upside than him. Even more upside than a guy like Malcolm Spence too, that, might be more of, again, we see a high floor third line type. I honestly think this is speaking of Porter Martone being a top 5 pick, I think this guy's close to being in that regard. This is as safe as a pick that I think you can take. At least outside of the top 3 anyway. I think, this guy's going to play with you. I think he's going to be an effective player no matter what you put him in. He's going to be a positive player on the ice just because he can create so many turnovers for your team. I think maybe you talked about at one point, maybe he's, maybe his upside's a 2C, but maybe it's a 1C. If you're going to have possession the entire time that he's on the ice and you put him with 2 other good wingers, he can be a number 1 center. So I think that upside does exist with him. He's definitely a top 10 pick. I would maybe angle him even closer to top 5. But I really liked what I saw. He was dominant, in the games that I saw. And their team's dominant too. And he's, again, 17 years old, and he's kind of the driver of, everything that's going on in that team, which is kind of compared, to what Misa's doing in Saginaw. But and again, Moncton's a better team than Saginaw is. So, maybe there is something more to that. But yeah, this guy's a player. And I really liked what I saw. And I'll let you, say what you saw, Rocco.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to like. The thing that I noticed about your scouting report on him, and like you're like the general curmudgeon. You love hammering on guys, and you had nothing bad to say about him. So like,
No.
there's no there's not really a hole in his game, and he creates so many of his points come directly off him creating a turnover.
Yeah.
Where he's picking the puck up or he's reading a play. And like you said, he doesn't take himself out of position or run guys over. But if the smart play is to finish the hit, he finishes the hit.
Yeah.
Or if he has no play on the puck, he finishes the hit. His priority is the puck. But he's not soft when he goes and does his stick checks. Like we were talking about Hagens, and it's like soft stick check after soft stick check without really much intent other than to kind of look like you're waving your stick at a guy. Whereas this guy is like really, really using it to create turnovers and create possession for his team. And in turn, that creates so many counterattack opportunities. And he obviously has finishing ability. He's got, like you said, he's almost 2 points a game, 24 points in 14 games. And he was hurt for a couple games too. So like he missed some time. Geez, he's been unbelievable for them, and he's doing it at both ends. And like you said, this is about outside of a couple guys, including one we're going to talk about at the end of the program. It's as safe as a guy that you can get, and I agree with your take. At worst, if everything goes wrong for him, he's a number 3 center and a damn good one too. And I'm not going to get too caught up in the first line versus second line thing with him. I think he projects as a top 6 center, because either way in your top 6, one guy is going to be probably more of a two-way guy. One guy might be a little more offensive, or you have 2 really strong two-way guys like when St. Louis won that year. But either way, he's going to be able to play on one of your top 2 lines with 2 of your more skilled wingers, and probably on your PK, and probably on your power play, and probably be able to play on any damn line you feel like it when you need him to.
So a guy I compare him to, and I know he's more of a winger, but it's kind of the Mark Stone thing, right? Guy's elite at just getting the puck back for his team in any situation. And it's not really a skill that's flashy, talked about a lot, or, see on the highlights, right? But you're going to look at his point totals at the end of the year and like, how do you do that? Oh, his team won again. Like, why do they always keep winning? Like, they don't look like they're that flashy, yet they keep beating the flashy teams. Like, that's the type of
flashy
the type of guy.
Flashy doesn't win.
No, and and again, he can be flashy. He has that capability, and that's why I say that he has more upside than some of these other guys we've looked at. Because I don't think I don't think they have some of the playmaking upside that he has. He goes to hard areas to score goals. He, again, as you said, I'm generally kind of a curmudgeon with a lot of guys. I kind of look at the negative of a lot of things. I didn't see much negative. There wasn't much negative there. And even in, again, when we watched, Holinka, like, he was pretty good in that tournament. And he, and again, it wasn't he was, popping off the TV to you.
Nobody, he doesn't.
No, but then you generally go back and look, and like, this guy's just doing good thing after good thing after good thing while he's out there.
And that's it. He's a guy that may not wow you with some insane highlight reel, and he may, but he may not. You know what I mean? But then you watch him for the 5th time or the 6th time, and it's like, okay, you just like you said, good play after good play after good play, and at a certain point, you make enough good plays without making that many bad ones, and you're just a damn good player. And this guy is just a damn good hockey player. And whatever team drafts him is getting a guy that, like, man, like you don't know, you never know where these kids will end up in your lineup, right? You can be as confident as you want. You don't know for sure, but I think you're pretty confident with this guy that wherever he does end up, he's going to be very effective and he's going to really help your team.
I just don't see. There's some guys you watch, right? And you're just, again, they're young, but I mean, I just don't see how he wouldn't be an NHL player. Like, I don't, again, we've talked about with a lot of these guys, like I pointed out, maybe there's some kind of flaw that could hold them back, or, teams might get held back. I mean, I don't know what would be holding a team back from picking him.
No,
I really
nothing.
don't.
Because I think he grades as above average at the NHL level at literally every single trait is at least average or above average at worst.
Well, that's what I mean. His literally his starting point is average. So I don't understand. Like, I don't, like, we've looked at a guy, say like McQueen and that, who, there's gigantic upside there, but there's, much more of a downside, right? Or
Yes.
at least that we're, you look at, and it's just
There's a lot more holes in his game.
Yeah. Like, again, he plays a professional game already. Like, he's already playing away. You know what? Here's something I would say that maybe would be a detriment to him. He might already play such a professional game that he might make the NHL too early. Like, that could legitimately be an issue, and he gets pigeonholed as a third line player. Like, that is the type of thing we're talking about here.
Couturier.
Yeah, like he just kind of gets in, like he's could make the team that drafts him.
Yeah.
And
I don't like that though. I don't like
but like it's just
I don't ever like an 18-year-old unless you're literally McDavid or Crosby or McKinnon or Bedard or whatever. The first overall pick most times, or at least half the time, can jump in and play, and it doesn't hurt them because they're that good. But anyone outside, like if you're not first overall, like why are you making the team at 18? Like your team's dog shit because you're getting picked second or third or fourth or whatever overall. So you're not going to a good team that's going to win the cup next year, unless it's some random freak trade where you have a high pick. But so like what? It doesn't serve the team other than putting butts in seats maybe, and all it does is risk throwing a guy off track. I would never play an 18-year-old kid unless, again, maybe one kid per year can be an exception to the rule, but like otherwise I would never do it. But I mean, I'm not an NHL GM, so what do I know?
Well, here's some things though with him. Like, he's winning over 60% of his faceoffs right now. He's a 17-year-old.
Doesn't look like a 17-year-old out there.
Like, that's what I'm saying though. Like, he can make the NHL, and I don't think he would be struggling. I don't know if he's going to be like thriving, but like I don't think he would be struggling. I mean, I really like this player. Like, obviously you can say that. Like, again, I think he's very close to the top 5.
Hey, can I say something like that? We didn't talk about this. I'm just going to throw something out there, and like we might listen to this back later and be like, "You're an idiot," and that's fine. Maybe I'll be an idiot. But could this be a guy? Could this be a guy that leaves the Quebec League next year and goes to NCAA?
Like, yeah, absolutely. Why not? I mean, he could definitely play there at a good program.
So with the announcement that happened, like, and everyone knows about it now, you can go from you don't lose your NCAA eligibility for CHL players, and I think by and large it's going to help the CHL. But what if you have a guy that's a really high pick he's done what he can do at the CHL level, which I think by the end of the season, Desnoyers will have proven.
I just said he could literally. He's got the game to play the NHL.
It's not a good idea, but it's not going to be a great idea for his development to go straight to the NHL at 18. Yeah. It's not, and he's not going to be eligible for the American League. So maybe he goes and plays one season NCAA.
It certainly could be a possibility. I mean, that would be
at least play against some older competition.
I mean, we'll have to see what these, scouts and teams want them to do, right? It'll be up to the team that drafts him, and it's kind of a new world, right? So they'll,
okay. So let's pretend we're a team. Like, pretend you're a team. If you have a guy that you think, okay, there's probably not much he can learn against junior players anymore. He's been dominant at that level, but he's 18 and we don't want him in the lineup, but we want him somewhere else, but he can't play in the American League, and you're not going to send him to Europe. So, like, is that a realistic consideration to pull a guy from that league after drafting him high when they usually play till 19 or 20?
Yes, it would be a realistic idea. But they would have to find the right situation that, what team would there
Who
be a
would
position for him to play? Well, no, but like, again,
someone would find a position for him?
no, I'm aware of that, but I mean, it's a coach you want to play for, style they play.
Well, yeah, but if you're
Where
already,
the team, where the team's comfortable, his NHL team's comfortable him playing.
but if you're a top 10 pick, you'd have the luxury of choosing that and making that choice, because any program is big money in the NCAA, right? Like that puts asses in seats, and that puts money in the school's pocket.
It
So you
does,
find
but I mean, if
calls you
it
and says, "We
does,
want
but I
to
mean, if
you take-"
Hagens is still at Boston, if Hagens is still at Boston College, like he's probably not going there. Like
No, but
that's
he
what
could go to any one of
No, I
the
know. It's just like
high schools.
that's what I mean. Like it has to be the right fit for the player, right? And
Yeah,
they'll work to find that, but it's definitely, again, we'll have to see how this develops. But it's definitely, I mean, it would definitely be better than going back, maybe next year he goes back to the Q, but definitely, I mean, again, with these players, definitely some guys that are, 19, it would be much better to go back, go to the NCAA than go, back to the CHL.
yeah. I wonder if that's like ends up being no. I really think it would probably only happen for a guy like that, where he's a very high pick, and he's there's not much more, like he's already dominant in junior. Like there is challenges there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I think it's a realistic possibility that teams will now discuss, and their their agents will discuss with them as well. I mean, it's definitely something that'll happen. But again, we'll see, how how often that happens and which types of players it does happen with. But I mean, I think it's a realistic possibility. Absolutely.
I think it's awesome that they're finally allowed to go from one to the other. It's in the player's best interest to be able to do
Way
that.
better for player development.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what
Anything to improve player development. I mean, we could talk about this a different episode, but even for goaltending, this is probably
I was just about to say, is this maybe something that'll finally help the state of Canadian goaltending?
Probably.
These
I mean, I don't.
guys will actually be able to develop a little better, rather than taking a
Can't
chance
hurt.
than ending
It
up.
can't hurt.
No,
I mean, you have more. There's more development time now. Now you're not.
it's going to hurt
You
the
get,
CIS.
well, yeah, but if you're the CIS again isn't like a bad hockey league. It's just if you're kind of a 17-year-old OHL goalie and you're not playing a lot, you're probably not good. It's tough unless you're 6'5" and some good team really likes you. You're probably not going to get drafted.
Yeah,
And then you end up being kind of, you end up maybe starting at 19 and 20, have some decent years, but you're kind of just, there's not really a path for you to kind of get better and move on in the pros. And I think having that option would definitely help, because I'm of the belief that it takes goaltenders a lot longer to develop.
way longer.
I think a lot of experts would say that too.
Yes.
Not pretending to be, NHL goalie coach or anything, but I mean, I think that would be, pundit. Sorry, but I think that would be kind of the general consensus that most goalies aren't done developing at 20, 21 years old. I mean, or even close to what they're going to be.
No,
And I think this would give them
develop into their early 30s.
Well, here's the thing: it would give so say an OHL goalie, they get drafted. Sorry, they don't get drafted, but say they have a 19 really good 19-year-old year. They can go start in the NCAA or go play in the NCAA, and then they get 4 more years of development time.
Yeah.
In which case, maybe they signed as a free agent at the end of their career with an NHL team when they wouldn't have before.
Well, a lot better chance of them doing that out of the NCAA than coming out of the CIS.
Yeah. Now, I am interested, though, to see one thing we haven't talked about, though, is contracts, right? Because I know teams will, sometimes teams will draft certain players and kind of to bury them because they won't, they're not under contract for, a few years. Like, I mean, I know I am curious how this would work. So say if a guy was drafted to the OHL or out of the OHL, he's plays 2 years in the OHL. Do they have to sign him now, or does he have to, or can he just go to the NCAA? Like, do you just hold the guy for 6 years? Like, is that?
Oh, you only hold the rights for 2 years after the
Well,
draft.
that's what I mean, though. Like, this is opening up like a kind of a whole new process, right? Because they could go
Well,
NCAA after they're drafted.
yeah, but I don't think that should change their NHL right. I think if your team's not willing to sign you after 2 years, then you should go. You should be
Well,
allowed
yeah,
to
but
do.
it's going to create a whole new, like, it's going to create this whole new maybe market for guys that way, right? Like, it's something different that might end up happening here.
I think it'll make it a little easier for guys who don't get signed off their after being drafted to go and have a better chance to be signed after another year or something
Yeah.
in college.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like, I mean, I think it's a good thing. It's good for. I think it's pretty good for it's good for college hockey. I think it's good for the players.
I think it's good for
I
the
mean, up in the air if it's good for the product in the CHL. If we're talking about some some of the top guys leaving early, but the
yeah.
counter to that would be that those guys who went to college would play when they're younger. So it's probably the league will just be younger.
Well, I think what you're going to see is it's going to hurt Junior A and it's going to hurt the CIS. I think
Yeah.
because the top guys from Junior A who had planned to go to college, they're not going to have to make that decision anymore, and they're going to be able to come play in the CHL if you know what I mean, in their
Yep.
younger, and then still go to college after if they want. And I think like they're not going to have to make that decision at 18 either, right? If they want to play longer, they could play from 16 to 20 now in the CHL and then still have all 4 years of eligibility and then go play till they're 24 or 25 in the NCAA rather than being done at 21 or 22.
Yep. No, it's definitely. I mean, again, it's going to be interesting.
It'll extend a lot of guys' competitive careers,
Well, that's what I mean, though. It gives them more development time.
which is
So
great.
if you extend their extend their playing time at these high levels, there's more chance of
More
again.
chance for them.
It's
Yeah,
hard, but I mean, there might be more chance of development. So that's I
yeah,
mean,
and
that's
not
what you're
all of
looking
them are going to make the NHL, but like it might lead to a lot more guys getting more jobs in other leagues, in the
Yeah.
American League or over in Europe or whatever.
It'll help the CHL because the guys who are waiting for scholarships will still play in their league. That would be
Yeah, it's going to
that
help
would
them.
be the
And
big benefit to that.
based on that, they might be willing to lose the odd guy when they're 18
Yeah.
because they're going to get so many guys younger. No, I think it's great for player development, and that's honestly ultimately what matters. We'll continue on here. I got to feature a guy from the U.S. national program, and we haven't really talked a lot about them. So I'll put his video up. And that is William Moore, who is a 6'2", 175-pound forward for the U.S. national U18 team. In 18 games as of right now, between they play in a whole bunch of leagues, but between the USHL, the NCAA, and international events, he's got 7 goals and 15 points so far. Very good offensive player for the most part. I don't know how dynamic of a player he is. I think he's more of a north-south winger, I think, is when he's at his best. But he is a very good offensive player. He's got a dangerous shot. And he makes NHL level passes and passes that you would see from an NHL forward that you'd expect from an NHL forward. He is able to make those and deliver a nice hard pass to the tape. And he does have decent vision. I don't think he's incredibly creative, but he's creative enough. He's creative enough that teams have to respect his playmaking as well as his shooting ability. Now, one thing that I'm not super crazy about is that his quickness isn't fantastic. I'd say he's a very, very average skater. I'm not seeing him burn too many guys in a foot race. That said, what he does lack in foot speed a little bit, and this isn't uncommon with a lot of guys who aren't the fastest. I don't want to make him sound like he's crazy slow or anything. He's just average, but he's got a very, very good stick, which makes up for that somewhat because he actually created quite a few turnovers. And this game's against Michigan, so he is playing older college aged players, and Michigan's an extremely, extremely good program. So they've got a good team. So for him to look above average out there, I think is a compliment to his game. you're not expecting a draft eligible player to be dominant against a NCAA team. So I did have to keep that in mind a little bit, that I'm not watching a guy in the OHL who should be dominating his peers, because he's not playing his peers in this one. Like, look at that play. That was a hell of a pass, and that's going to work against any goalie in any league. So the offensive ability is there. I'd like to see it more regularly. The shifts that he has it are very good. You really like him. He can give a really good effort. He can force a turnover. He's good with his stick. I don't think he's actually a lazy player at all. I don't think he has the best motor I've ever seen, but I don't think he's a lazy player. I don't think he's a dog. I don't think he's soft. But I do think he's kind of average in those sort of traits. He can be a little bit careless with the puck, and that comes from a little bit of overconfidence, which is not super uncommon for young, highly skilled players. So that can lead to some turnovers against. Off play puck was good at times, but it was inconsistent. He can get caught a little bit, but again, he is younger. He's playing against NCAA level players here, and we're going to cut him a little bit of slack in that sense. I don't know where he's elite. I don't know what his trait is that is really, really, really high end. His offensive play is very, very good. I don't know what is elite, but that said, most of his skills are at least average or above average. So I do think we have a player here. Hockey sense is pretty good. He gets to the right spots mostly, which does help make up for his foot speed. Not lots of fanciness to a game. He is more straightforward, like I said, and that's when he's most effective. I don't know that this is a guy that's going to really drive a line for you. I think he's going to be more of a quality support player if he's able to hit his ceiling. But there's guys that drive lines, but like every guy that drives a line needs a guy that supports him well too, right? So like there is a need for this. I just don't know if this is a guy that's really going to push the pace or carry the load for a line. But I do think that he has the offensive tools, and he has the puck skills, and he has the size. I mean, he's slight. He's 175 pounds, but at 6'2", he's big enough. He shoots the puck well. He passes the puck well. He handles the puck well. So he does have top six skills in that sense. But he just doesn't wow you. But that's okay, because I do think we're looking at a guy who's going to be able to play. And for me right now, I'd say he's a first rounder for me, but I don't know that he would be in my top 20 as of right now. That said, if he gets really on a heater, like, if he starts firing off one-timers and making nice assists like that more consistently, the tools are there for him to move inside the first half of the first round. He does have that. He has the size and skill for it. I've just seen enough guys that have done it a little bit more consistently that have similar tools that I'd be more comfortable with at this point.
Okay. So my take was that his elite skill is shooting the puck. That was the one thing he can actually do.
Yes.
At very high level. I think that will translate. He can shoot the puck. I don't think he shoots it enough, but I also don't think he has the puck enough to shoot it enough. So he does. I think that skill is well above average. So I think that is his top skill, his ability to shoot the puck.
I don't think it's elite. Like, I don't think we're looking at a 40-goal guy, elite.
No, but I think that, he has a shot. He's beating college goaltenders on his shot. Like that's a thing. Like there's definitely a shooter there. I don't think we're looking at a 40-goal guy though. Even we're looking at pick 20 or something like that, right? But I mean, that shot's a 20-goal scorer in the NHL. I mean, that's probably yeah. So that's above average. So that's definitely definitely a good skill for him.
For me, I was thinking you might be looking at a 30-30 guy if he pans out.
I mean, if he's fully,
if everything goes well.
What you want him to be. His skating is very average. And one thing I noticed too, he's not agile. He's not really that quick going, it's meh. Like, it's okay. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
Like it's just okay. Like it's not. And
I mean,
again, he's playing.
not
He's
slow, but
playing
he's
guys
not.
older than him,
Yeah,
and we're gonna watch him. Try and watch him. In some games that are maybe more his age group. We'll see how it is there. But I mean, that would be what.
I watched some of his Five Nations, like some of the games that he's at the
Yeah,
Five Nations. Like he's not skating around guys there,
yeah,
and that's his peers, right? He's an
yeah,
average skater. I think that is his. To me, that's his biggest drawback. Is his
yeah.
foot.
So the other thing is too, you were mentioning his playmaking. I mean, his playmaking in the offensive zone, like when they're in the zone and like, is actually quite good. Like he can find guys there. His rush passing is not great. Like he makes a lot of mistakes in that area.
Yeah, he forces it a lot.
Yeah, and that's a hesitation I definitely have. And the other thing is his D zone. Again, maybe you're a little bit higher. Like he's out of position a lot, and it's not even a lot. I don't even think it's a lack of effort thing. Like he's trying to get back. He's trying. I mean, he's playing on the PK. He's trying, but he just kind of floats out of position a lot of the time. And
I
that's
find it also like you can watch the puck a little bit and then try to jump the play a little bit early. But like
I mean,
I think it's coachable because like again, like you said, he's not lazy at all.
I don't think the jumping the zone parts like that's fine. Like I mean, he's an offensive player. I don't think he's not doing it all the time either. Like
No.
he's no, so like it's not. I mean, he's doing it when he sees them getting the puck. So I can understand that. It's just I can't get over too when we show the clips of the Michigan game, right? He has two really good highlights in that game. Rest of the game, the puck's in their end. Like he didn't have the puck at all.
The puck should be in there, and Michigan should pump them.
Maybe, but again, he's if we're talking about a top 10 pick, like he should have the puck. So I mean,
well, that's what I mean.
I get it. I get it. I get it. It's Michigan. They're an older team. They're good. I get it. But it's again.
But I don't know that he's going to be a guy that's going to be a guy that has the puck a lot. I think he's like
okay. Well, no, then maybe that's not a top 10 pick for me. Then like that just might be that's a later pick for me.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. To me, he's
I know you didn't say that, but I'm just saying like that. I have seen some rankings where he's kind of 10 to 15. Like I don't agree with that.
I've seen it that high too, but for me, I've seen 10 guys for sure that I'm definitely much higher on. To me, he's more of a mid first round pick, and he's probably a guy that gets picked to a playoff team as of right now. If he goes on some crazy heater where the offense really starts to pop on a more consistent basis, it's a long season still, and there's a guy that we're talking about in the second round right now is going to be a top 15 pick by the end of the year, guaranteed. So
I mean, he's a 2007 birthday. I mean, he's not old for the class. I mean, he's there's potential here, obviously. I'm pretty sure the Knights actually have his rights.
Of course,
by the way, might be something to look at. Just an FYI. I doubt that'll happen though, because on the national team they play college teams, so that's probably better for him. But yeah, I might be a little less on him. I think he's maybe like the second pick of a team that has a high pick, maybe in the top 10. Maybe they have a secondary pick late. They want to hit on an offensive guy.
Yeah,
I think that might be kind of what they're looking at.
I'd be more comfortable with him between 20 and 30 than I would be between 10 and 20.
Yeah, I think even like 25 to 32 might be for me. I just there's a lot of flaws here. There's a lot of ways where this might not work out. But I mean, he does have that once, again, the ability to shoot the puck and score. You could say anything you want, but that's you play to score goals. Scoring goals wins games. So I mean, that's if you're gonna have those a skill, like that's one of them to have.
Yeah, but a shooter is where teams can miss too, right? Yeah. Because you're willing to overlook. Like, look at Oliver Wahlstrom. Could he shoot the puck? Oh my God, could he shoot the puck? But did he do fuck all else for you? No, not really. And what happened? He was still a first rounder, and now, like he's been.
And again, you're projecting the guy 4 or 5 years from now. So again, like that possibility.
No,
Again, I don't
I
want
like
I
the
don't want to
side move.
yell. I don't want to get mad or yell at the player, but I mean,
No,
like it just that's like what could happen.
no, I like this
I have a
guy
lot more
more.
hesitation with him than I maybe like. So, for instance, we are just talking about Desnoyers. I have no hesitation at all. Like, I think he's going to play. I think there's some risk here with taking him. But again, he's going to get some opportunities. Again, he's playing at an increased level, and he's not thriving at a level that's probably above him, and that's fine. I think he's surviving. I don't think he's thriving, but I
No,
don't think he's
he
been
doesn't look bad against the NCAA.
no. So
He
that
looks
I
just
mean
like
that
a guy out there.
yeah. So I mean, I am gonna leave that possibility that when I watch him play guys more his age, that he will look better, and that will probably increase my view, like my idea of him. Just because I've only seen him play college teams that are quite good. So, and that's
Something like the U18s in the spring would be big for a guy like this, I think.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's playing against guys his age.
The
If he has a
actual
good tournament there, his value could really rise just because he's been, and
the
also
problem
it's noteworthy too that national development program isn't as good this year as it has been most years. So he's not playing with,
it's
yeah,
not as
so it's not a
not
normal
for them.
program year where they're playing with multiple elite guys. Like he's not, they don't have those guys. Now, maybe he should be one. Maybe that's a different answer to that, but that's, I mean, it's not like he's playing with a ton of top end talent, I guess.
No, and their
Say.
schedule weird too because like they play a lot against NCAA teams which should be bigger, stronger, faster than them, and then they play against a lot of USHL teams which they are mostly way better than.
Yeah,
And then they play the few international tournaments against their peers. So like that's where I really want to see him. But he is a good player. I don't want to sound like there's not things to like about his game because there's a lot of things to like about his game. But I think that he was a guy who maybe had some clout coming into the year, and maybe the shines worn off there, or just other guys have played really well. And he hasn't hit his stride quite yet, but long season still.
yeah, he's a guy I'm interested in watching maybe a little bit later in the year, see how he's developed, and as you said, under 18s, if
Because
he can.
like when he looks good, he looks really, really good. Like the flashes that you see, like that one-timer
Yeah,
goal in the highlight package, and the way he changed the angle of that pass right before he fired it across two sticks to a guy for an open net. You know what I mean? Like there's elements there that like, okay, like that's a top 6 NHL quality play. But then there's other times where it's like, yeah, I
he's
don't like.
he's got a good one-timer. I mean, he's a threat to shoot the puck if he's playing on a power play. Like they're always like, I mean, like that's again, these are things that are, again, those are skills that teams don't. There aren't a lot of guys like that. So I mean, that's you're definitely into that. And again, you could maybe maybe some of these things that we're worried about can get better. So I mean, I'm interested to see, again, as I said, I'm interested to see him kind of later in the year because he could look a lot better. He could A, improve, and B, look a lot better against more competition he should be playing against.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. For now, I have him somewhere in my first round. Although I'm I'm very much of the same mindset of you. He's a guy to keep an eye on moving forward. He's not someone that I've settled my opinion on as of yet. But
No, I don't think that. Yeah,
talented
I don't
player,
think that'd
man.
be fair to do that yet. Really.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. But let's move on because we got 2 more guys to cover here. So we'll move on. Darren, you mentioned him earlier, Brady Martin. I'll let you take it over.
All right, so we have Brady Martin. So he again another March 2007 birthday. So again, he's he's not old for the class. He's kind of in the middle there, but that's that's good to see. 6 foot, 175 right shot centerman for the Soo Greyhounds. And as of this taping, he has 17 games played, 7 goals, 9 assists for 16 points, and he's a +8. So he does play a fair amount for the Sioux, who are actually playing. They're in 6th. They're not playing terribly. They're playing decently well, and he's playing a lot against other teams' top line. So that's I mean, you like to see that as a 17-year-old. In terms of things I liked about him, kind of playing into the theme here, defensively, he is a very good defensive hockey player. You know, when he's on the forecheck, he's very good at taking away a primary option of the defenseman. He usually forces them into a secondary read, which is, again, that's it's very intelligent on his part. He does have that ability to turn over pucks as well. And he's very responsible. So, I mean, he's, usually there, if his D pinches, he kind of recognizes that and always gets in a good position that way. He has a good ability to win puck battles, and he can use his stick to steal pucks too. So, I mean, kind of similar to Desnoyers in that way. He's very good in that regard. And that is, it's a high-end skill set for him. I thought his compete was also very good. Maybe not the highest of high end we've seen, but I mean, it's pretty high. Competes on board play. Even if he gets caught, he'll rush to catch up. It was a good skill for him. He's pretty strong. He goes to kind of dirty areas, gets in front of the net for tips, stuff like that. Physicality was also quite good. He's pretty engaged from the first shift in a lot of these, or at least in the games that I've seen. He's not afraid to hit. However, he's more going to use his positioning and anticipation than his body. But he will use contact effectively to get the puck. So he's kind of looking, if that is needed, he will do that. So again, I will say that's a good skill for him. He's going to use his physicality, when it's beneficial to the team. So I think he makes good choices in that regard. Again, he battles hard along the boards. So, I mean, those are good skills. We like that from him. Didn't mind his playmaking. It was okay. He made some good passes, but sometimes he also overheld the puck, and sometimes he made some wrong decisions on his rush, opportunities. The other thing is, I think he tries to make moves too much by himself versus using his teammates. I don't think he's bad at this. I just don't think he's elite. I think he's just kind of average in this regard. Again, his shooting, he doesn't really actively look to shoot a lot, but does show he can finish when he's in tight. He does have that skill. He does have good, he will go to the net for tips. He does have the ability to tip pucks in front of the net. Again, which is something that might translate the NHL level. Has a decent one-timer as well. If he's in a position to get it off, he can definitely, give a problem, or it is a problem for goalies. With skating, I thought it was, again, kind of, like more, I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't think it was great. He does get caught from behind a couple of times, but I wouldn't say he's slow. I'd just say he's kind of average. Speed doesn't seem to threaten the defense that much, I think, is what I would say, which is why maybe his puck skills don't work a lot against them. And I don't think he's that shifty. He didn't really seem to have much power when he was kind of changing directions or going backwards in that regard. So yeah, that would be kind of, look for some improvement there maybe going forward. And in terms of his offensive hockey sense, I thought his, defensively, he had a really good idea of where the puck was going, but it didn't match up with maybe offensively as much. I thought his vision was a little bit, it was average, and he made, some poor decisions, that I'd like to see maybe cleaned up for, for potential first round pick. But he was willing to take the puck to the net and go to the net, in that regard, and kind of create a chance that way, which I thought was good. But it's just, again, that's more of a power forward skill set, and I'm not sure he's a power forward. I just don't know if he's really big enough to play that way in the pros. So again, I think he's another high floor guy. But if you're comparing him to Desnoyers, I don't see the upside offensively as much with him. I think this is a guy that probably is a third line center. That, or maybe, like, he's going to be responsible. I would like to see him get better at faceoffs as well, but again, that should, that's something that can maybe come when he's a little bit, older. But also, if he simplifies his game offensively and doesn't try to maybe dangle guys as much, just uses chips and that uses his physicality, I think that could play really well in the NHL. Maybe as again, as a third line center, I think that would work. So for me, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know if I see a top 20 pick here, but I think there's, again, maybe some of those playoff teams might see a guy that, maybe a guy they could get in their lineup that's, already pretty well advanced at, 3 specific skills that they would want in their lineup, maybe at 20, 21 years old, which are, defensive IQ, he's physical, and he tries hard. So, I mean, that's, and then you kind of work on the skill set from there once, his offensive skill set from there. But I think this is a player. I'm just not sure, again, if I want to take a guy, at 10 to 15 with, maybe what I see as more limited upside.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think I like him a little bit more than you do because but I think that is because I just really like how he plays the game. Like I really like how he plays the game. He's incredibly smart. Like you said about his hockey IQ. That is one thing to me that is a great equalizer. If you don't have tons of skill, if you can outthink guys, you're going to be able to become a better player than a lot of guys who are more naturally skilled than you. It's one thing that translates into any league. And if you're forcing guys into their second and third reads, like you mentioned, and you're forcing them into errors, well, that's huge at the NHL level because so many goals come off mistakes, right? That's really the goalies and the D are so good that off structured plays, you're very rarely scoring, right? So many goals come off turnovers and scrambled plays. And if you're good at forcing those things to happen, you're going to be good at helping your team win games. And again, I agree with you. I don't see the same level of upside that we have in a Dane Wyatt, but I don't think it would be fair to Brady Martin to have that conversation. I think he's a guy that needs to be appreciated for what he is, because he knows who he is as a player. I think, and I think he knows what will get him to the highest level of hockey, because he plays the way that guys need to play to make the NHL.
Yeah.
And that gives me a lot of comfort as a team if I'm drafting in the 20s. To me, unless he either gains a lot more speed or he grows 2 inches overnight, I don't think it would be fair to have him in the debate for top 10. I don't think it would be fair, because I think that's just, only 10 guys can be top 10 picks, and they're going to be guys with extremely high skill or an extremely high floor and probably pretty big.
Yeah.
So he's not the most skilled, and he's not very big, but he does have a high floor, and the things that he's good at are going to translate extremely well for him. I do think the types of points that he gets, like the highlights that you showed, the first 2 highlights were his one-timer goal, which would go in on any power play that works, and the tip goal, which would work on any goalie. Very similar to when we featured Bill Zahn in episode 1, where it's like, okay, maybe he's not putting up as many points as some of the top guys, but what kind of points are you putting up? Because I'd sooner take that tip play than a guy who went end to end and scored a goal, you know what I mean? And did it in a fancy way, because which one do you see more often in the league? And there's 10 times more tip goals than there are end rushes. So it's like the things that he's good at are really, really going to help him. And his defensive IQ is fantastic. It's right up amongst the best that I've seen in this draft class. And as a potential third line center, if you're a team that made a deep run in the playoffs, if he's sitting there, like, how do you let him pass you into the second round? I don't think you can.
No, I don't think they would. Like, I think that's exactly where he's going to go. He's going to go to a playoff team that, sees him in that role. The weakness I see with him, though, is when he has the puck. That's more what I worry about a bit more.
But I think that's why we're talking about him as a third line guy.
Yeah, because like again, they're not the same player, but with Desnoyers, he gets the puck and he also makes a good decision when he gets the puck, whereas Martin gets the puck, but then he kind of just, then not as much comes of it. So I'd like to see that part of his game kind of improve a bit. And I mean, we've done enough features on these guys now to kind of see, who's computing the game a little better than others. And I think there's guys that, definitely compute the game better than him. But they also don't work as hard as him or
Offensively.
yeah, no, offensively, right. He computes the game very well defensively. But it's just not.
I could see him carving out like Dano type.
Yeah. I mean, again, and like there's lots of room for improvement here, and they're using him very liberally. I mean, he's gonna, so he's only gonna get better offensively, I think, in that type of role. But again, it's just that's kind of the worry I would have with him is just, what happens when he does have the puck. I mean, his looking at his Corsi and that, like again, trying to match it up with the eye test, right? It's not ideal. I mean, he's under 50%. So I mean, I don't think I'm wrong to maybe have a few worries of what happens when they do have the puck. But I mean,
that can also be a factor of deployment too, right? Like he does take on a lot of defensive responsibilities, and he plays against other teams' better players.
He does, absolutely. And again, maybe possibly he's a guy that maybe looks better again, maybe at a higher level with some better players on his line when he steals the puck and gets to them, they do something good for him. So I mean, maybe that's,
Yeah, I mean, I have the same questions for you with the offensive upside. I don't see a guy that's going to be a 60-point player at the NHL level, but I do see a guy who's probably going to get in the good graces of the coaches and in the good graces of the fan base, and I think his teammates will respect the way that he plays the game. And I think that above all else, he will find a way to play in the league. And if you can get a guy that you think might play 400 or 500 games for you in the NHL in the late first round, that a lot of times that's a pretty good decision rather than taking a swing on a super skilled offensive guy that doesn't end up making it.
Yep. I think there's again, I as I said, I think we're kind of in the same ballpark where he's going to be picked. It's the same. It's going to be those type of teams.
Okay, so I'll put this to you then.
Yeah.
First answer that comes to your mind. You're sitting on there. There's only two players left. You got Brady Martin and you got William Moore. Who are you taking? So they're opposites, right? Almost.
Oh, I'd probably take Martin, to be honest.
Me too. Right now.
Yeah.
So would I.
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, it's just yeah.
Lots of questions.
Yeah, it's just that.
But he's small, but he's smaller and he's not as skilled. So why are we doing that?
Skills that I feel like the skills that Martin have translate better to an NHL role. Like I feel like there's a beneficial NHL role for him there.
Yeah. Well, I think there's more options for where you can play him.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't improve a lot at the other stuff, I think he can still make it. I'm not sure Moore can make it if he doesn't improve some of those areas that we're worried about.
Yeah, and that's fair. And again, brings that original discussion back full circle, where it's like a lot of times at the end of the first round, like your GM can come to you and give you a mandate, right? Where it's like, we want this type of players, and a lot of the times, especially if you're a really good team that probably gassed a good chunk of your draft capital becoming a good team, you say, hey, we only have 4 picks this year, or we only have 5 picks this year, because I traded our second and third rounders to help us make that run, and now we're picking 28th overall, and that's our only pick in the top 3 rounds. So I need you to go find me an NHL player.
Yeah. No, like it's going to be a team like that looking for. Yeah, it's going to be a good team. Probably it takes them. There's going to be a team from 20 to 32 that'll take them. I think that's pretty realistic. And again, he's another guy we'll be interested in looking at because he could again get better at these skills as the year goes on, just from getting more reps. And
Yeah,
so, yeah,
absolutely.
he already is. Like, I mean, he's got pretty good point totals. There's no reason he can't get better. It's just, yeah. I mean,
Like if his quickness took a half step, he's all of a sudden a lot more threatening when he's streaming down on
well, I
on
think
a
it would
run.
help his puck skills too, because as of right now, I don't think his puck, some of his, I guess, moves he's making on the defenseman are working because he's not going quick enough.
I don't think he's going to be a make moves kind of guy to be effective
So
though,
yeah,
right?
I mean, if he picks up a step, that just becomes a little bit, more of a danger to the defenseman. A lot of other things open up. That's what speed does for you.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So, very, very good two-way player, and I think a strong candidate to be a first-round pick in this year's draft. So it's Brady Martin. We're going long tonight, but that's okay. We're having fun.
Sunday night.
We're not, yeah, it's Sunday. We're recording this Sunday night. It just hit midnight here, so clearly we got a couple guys who are naturally nocturnal because we're still going strong. But whatever. We wanted to watch the OHL Sunday afternoon and the Q Sunday afternoon game so we could talk about how fucking shit the refs were at the Gatineau game today. Wouldn't have been able to do that if we recorded yesterday, so that's fine. One more guy that I'm gonna feature, and this is exciting. We've been alluding to covering him for some time, but he you know got mono earlier in the year, so missed the start of the season. But he's making up for it in quite a hurry here, and that is Matthew Schaefer of the Erie Otters. 6'2", 185-pound left foot defenseman who is just he's really good at hockey. He's really, really good. 3 goals and 10 points in 8 games played since his return. Pretty much every tool he has across the board is off the charts. And you could almost he is his scouting report is as good as I'm willing to give a guy in the second week of November in his draft year. He's been that impressive, and I thought he was that impressive at the Hlinka. I thought he was by far the best player in that tournament. And I'm just going to say this right now, point blank. He is by far the best player I have seen this year. Full stop, period. And as far as I'm concerned, if I was picking today first overall, I would have zero hesitation walking up to the podium and calling Matthew Schaefer's name above anybody else. His skating is so good. He creates separation. He can close gaps. His four-way mobility is unbelievable. His agility is fantastic. His top speed is fantastic. He can separate from guys. Like, he goes around guys for fun. I think by the end of the year, this league is going to be an absolute joke for him, and he's going to be even more dominant than he already is. Like, he's played 8 games and he had mono, and he's playing 30 minutes a night most nights, unless they're blowing teams out. That's the only time he's not playing a lot. And I cannot say enough good things. His hockey sense, he reads the game so well. His ability to anticipate at both ends, and that's the thing with this guy, is he's so good at both ends of the rink. He knows what guys are doing before they do. He jumps plays, he creates turnovers. I wrote in 2 games, I did 2 scouting reports on him. I wrote the word giveaway 1 time, and he played 54 minutes across 2 games. And maybe there was 1 time I missed or whatever, but like, he's so careful with the puck. And we just talked about that for length, how important turnovers are and the turnover differential when you get to the National League, and what that means in terms of winning games for your team. And his turnover differential is unbelievable. He can shoot the puck. He can pass the puck. His puck skill is unbelievable for a defenseman. He's so poised with it. He's extremely confident. Like look at that. Just took a puck through 3 guys through the neutral zone, carried the defenseman on top of his own goal. He gave his guy a screen. Nothing happened of it, but he created that whole thing by himself through a neutral zone turnover. plays physical. He has no problem pinning guys because he's got the size to do it. And he's almost so good that we don't need to go through his full skill set one by one and talk with him, because the report reads the same up and down his scouting report. It's like everything he does is so impressive. To me, this is a franchise level defenseman. I think he projects as a number one defenseman in the NHL. I think we're looking at a guy who could be a future Norris Trophy winner. And I'm going to reiterate it. This is the best player I have seen this year, whether that be in person or on video. And I haven't got the chance to see him in person yet because he was sick when I did get to see Erie. But I'm going to see him a couple times this year, and I'm so excited. He controls everything about the play when he's on the ice. He dictates the defensive zone. He communicates so well with his guys out there. He's constantly talking and directing guys where to go. Boyce, you talk about him a little bit, because I'm starting to sound like a fanboy, and obviously no prospect's perfect, but the way he dominates the game from the back end is special.
Okay. So I'll just say I agree with you fully on his skating. He's the best skater in the draft, maybe other than Hensler. But I think he's actually might be a little more agile than Hensler.
You gotta bring in a little dose of realism here, because
again,
maybe
I think Hensler might be better at
but
skating forwards and backwards, but I think this guy is way more shifty and agile than him. Like, this guy gets the pucks just going sideways. Like, it's, than Hensler. Like, again, we're just comparing a guy another guy who could skate, right? Like,
I think Hensler's a more powerful skater, but I think Schaefer is a better skater overall when you factor in everything.
I think that's kind of what I'm saying, right? Like, I think Hensler might have some more power, just, straight line speed in his stride, but I think this guy, he has really good edges, very fluid, it's easy backward skating. He's quick side to side, like, direction changes are easy. Like, this is, what you want to see from a guy who's, a top end defenseman. He beats guys to pucks just with his change of direction. Like, he just gains speed on them and just, gets the puck. I mean, another thing I noticed too, and maybe this was a good reference for us, but
watch his hands here.
Yeah, I haven't got to that yet. But yeah, that was really nice. But he has some, even like, if he ever does get caught, Rocco, he can catch up. Like, he's such a good skater that he can catch up to the play. Kind of, Erik Karlsson asked that way, right? Like, if he makes a mistake, he can get back, and that's that's something we definitely like to see. I mean, you saw right there his puck skills are quite good. Even on the defensive end, they're quite good. I mean, he's a confident puck handler. However, he's skating, I mean, he's very smart. He uses the net to pick guys, can manipulate space. I mean, he can beat goalies on dekes. Like, I mean, there's some high end, offensive skill and puck skills there. Okay. I wouldn't say his shot is elite. I mean, it's definitely a hard shot. It's above average, but I wouldn't say it's elite. But I mean, it'll play. I mean, he's going to get shots to the net. I mean, that works. He's a good passer. He rarely seems rushed. I mean, makes hard passes. He does fumble it a little bit, and he does make some mistakes on breakouts, at least from what I saw. Not a lot, but I mean, there's a couple. So, I mean, I'm nitpicking here. So, I mean, but other than that, I mean, this guy's he joins the rush well. He might need to maybe improve, when he joins the rush, maybe just dial it back sometimes, because he is really good. If he just, if he just wanted to be a conservative defenseman the entire game, like, he could just shut down the game if he really wanted to.
Why would he want to do that when you're that good, though?
No, I'm just saying, like, maybe there's, there might be a little bit of a happy medium there.
That's what I'm saying. You just said it yourself. If all of his offense goes away, he's still a 6 shutdown defenseman.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, he works hard. His D zone's very good. I mean, I didn't see him really get out of position or anything. Skating, if it does get out of position, really helps him. He gets back in position, really uses his body well. I mean, even honestly, the only maybe another thing I had, I mean, you talked about his physicality. He is willing to hit guys. I wouldn't say he's, going to scare guys out there. He's not going to, maybe.
No, but doesn't need to though, because
I-
he's so good at taking the puck.
I'm well aware. I'm just nitpicking what you're saying. Like, it's like, this guy's good.
Well, you can't nitpick it. Like, what is he bad at? There's nothing he's bad at, and there's so many things he's like really elite at.
It's also noteworthy he's playing 30 minutes. He's still flying around out there. Like, that's, we've seen some other guys there that played. Well, we're seeing other guys out there play a lot of minutes, but they're kind of coasting around. I call that Alex Edler hockey, where you take a couple strides per shift and just move around. He's not doing that. Like, his
legs are so good. Like, he's just so fast that he's taking the same amount of strides. He's just going quicker.
And the other thing is too, he runs the power play really well. So, I mean, again, the things I'm nitpicking on, I mean, he still moves the puck quickly in the power play, gets shots to the net. Like, I mean, this is, there's definitely, he can definitely play out a power play in the NHL. Like, there's definitely going to be a top end power play.
And you don't need a 110-mile-an-hour slap shot to have a very good shot, because
you get hard pucks through.
Part of having a high end shot is, especially as much more as a defenseman than a forward, but one of the biggest skills in shooting is actually being able to get it through and knowing, and like actually being able to get the puck from the blue line all the way to the net without getting blocked.
Well, that's what Erik Karlsson was. Guy just got pucks through. Didn't really wasn't just fired through, just got it through. And like, that causes a lot of havoc in front of the net. So you get a lot of points.
Lots of goals that way.
He's definitely.
Have you seen anyone better?
I mean, So here's the thing. I'm just going to bring this up. What if Montreal picks first? They're not picking a defenseman. Like, that's what I think it's him and Misa are the top two guys. That's what I think. I think Hagens is third. And then I think there's kind of goes off after that. That's where I'm at right now. But again, the other thing you didn't bring up, he's a September 2007 birthday. He's the youngest person in the draft. He's the youngest player, and he's this good. So, I mean,
thank you for catching that.
Yeah, but that's another thing that's noteworthy. He is 10 months younger than James Hagens, for instance.
Yeah,
like, and 11 months maybe. I'm not even like it's, but yeah.
And I mentioned earlier the scout that I was chatting with at the game today, the guy who's the former chief scout. He said to me, if I was up there, I'd have a very hard time passing on this guy, and I'd have an especially harder time passing on him for a 5'10" center.
Well, I think that's the wrong conversation, though. Like, I think that's the wrong. I don't think that's I don't even think they're in the same class right now.
No. To me, Schaefer has been easily better than Hagens.
Yeah,
and I think now we'll see. Right, we're early on this take. I do think that we're going to see, once all, like, most people's next set of rankings come out, which is, your December midseason, whatever. I do think we're going to see a lot more of a conversation that this draft class is wide open. Whereas Hagens was a consensus first overall pick going into the year, I think it's going to start being talked about a lot more openly that that's not the case. He's not the consensus first overall pick.
Well, I think I've seen it now where, there were some rankings where Misa was like fifth. And I think now some guys are kind of seeing him play and they're like, oh, like, he's the best offensive player. Like, he's the best forward. Well, that's what I mean, though. Like, someone had him fifth. Like, they didn't even have him like he's I think he's the best forward. And Schaefer's the best defenseman. Like, I mean, if I think Hensler's the second best defenseman, like, he's
Schaefer's the best defenseman, and it's not even close.
Yeah, he's light years better than him.
And Hensler's sick.
And really I'm not saying he's bad. He's quite good. I really like him.
Really, really good. And Jackson Smith is really, really, really good. And who we haven't covered yet, but that's another top defenseman. And we've covered a few other top guys who are all really good. And, like, this guy is, like, way better.
So again, I think he's a top 2 pick. And only reason he's a top 2 pick is if again, whoever's picking first doesn't need a defenseman.
Who doesn't need a defenseman?
Montreal is going to be the team that says that.
Well, they need a Norris Trophy winning defenseman. And that's what
they also need guys who can score. because all their top players have not scored for the last like 6 games.
Oh,
Kirby Dach's about minus 15. So
I thought Montreal was a juggernaut now.
I've heard that. But anyway, yeah. Like, I mean, they need scoring. And like this is like again. So like I mean, and I think again, Misa's had a great year. He's leading the OHL in scoring now.
He's yes,
So
he is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of your choice here, right?
I've yet to watch. Okay, here's what it came down to for me, because I had this debate with the voices in my head for about 3 hours before we started recording, and what it came down to for me is I've yet to see a game with Matthew Schaefer involved. I've yet to see one between, starting from the summer. I've yet to watch a game where he was not head and shoulders the best player on the ice. And Misa's often been that for me. But when you're talking about who's one and who's two, sometimes it comes down to that. And for me, Schaefer's been the best player on the ice every single time I've laid eyes on the kid. Every time he's been the best player.
I mean, he wasn't on the ice for a goal in the Holinka, so he was far.
How can you get scored on when you have the puck all the time? And by the time if you don't have the puck, by the time it's at the red line, you've stolen it back.
Yeah.
Like,
so I'm not arguing with you. Like, he's really good player. I just think, again, I
like the only way he could be better is if he was right-handed.
Yeah. Well, then he would be far and away the first pick. It wouldn't even be a question. It probably wouldn't be. But he's a left-hand D, so it might be a bit more of a question.
Yeah, maybe. And I could see a team, like, if you have a chance to get a franchise center or even a step below, like a number one center, like a true number one center. If you have a chance, that's usually the first overall pick.
Well, I think I said even before. I said Misa's. This is a 90-point guy. Like, if this guy's, if this is actually what he is, the way he plays. I mean,
I agree with you. To me, Hagens has been the third best player that I've seen so far.
Yeah,
and honestly, if he wasn't the number one projected guy going into the year, I might have him lower than that. I'm giving him a little slack because I've seen him be so dominant. He gets some credit for past performance, sort of thing. But if I had gone into the year completely blind on him, I might not have him. Like, I might have Hensler ahead of him too.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, I don't know. But like, Hensler hasn't put the offense up for that yet. So like, for now, I have him third, and I do have Misa and Schaefer 1-2 as well. But right now, I mean, now you asked me this time last week, I would have had Misa ahead, and I would have had Schaefer. But man, I don't know. Like, it's so hard. It's so hard to get a defenseman in a trade, like to get a true number one. Like, okay,
it's hard to find a number one center too. That's two hardest things to find.
Stamkos was just a free agent.
He's not a number one center anymore.
No, he's still a first line player, dude.
I'm just saying, he's fallen off a little bit.
What's harder to find though, a forward or a defenseman?
Really? Probably the Norris Trophy winning defenseman versus. But I mean, like, you're talking about a first line center. They're really hard to find.
They are, but like,
we're not talking. Yeah, like, I don't.
Okay, let's put it this way, because I don't know that. Like, I don't think that Misa would ever, like. Maybe McDavid will be retired. I guess you got to retire at some point. I guess he'll have to stop winning the MVP award eventually, between him and McKinnon. But like, would you say Misa becomes like 90-point center, but doesn't win a Hart Trophy ever, versus Schaefer becomes like a 65-point D-man and wins 1 or 2 Norris trophies? Who would you take?
Okay, like, kind of a loaded question though. Like,
okay, like, what if Misa becomes like Spezza? Different player, but like, let's just say
Spezza was a really good number one center. Like, they made a couple.
Right. He was. It's a compliment. He scored 90 points. He scored 100 points.
I actually but I actually think Spezza was one of like the top players in the league in his prime. Like he was really
That's what
good.
I'm saying. It's a good comparable. But who would
Yeah.
you
Like,
rather have, Spezza or Niedermeyer?
well,
No, seriously though.
I don't think that's well. I mean, I'd rather have Scott Niedermeyer if that's what you're
Right,
saying. But like,
right. Well, that's a Norris Trophy winning defenseman versus a 100-point player who never won a Hart Trophy.
yeah, it's tough, man.
What if this guy's the next
I
fucking
just
Scott
don't. But it's
Niedermeyer?
again, this would be easier if I thought Misa was like kind of a hole defensively. Like he's
Well,
not.
that's okay. Then pick a guy. Like I'm just saying. Like
It's
you
that's
know,
what I mean. Like I don't like. It's just because I don't think.
like how many guys would you take over Scott Niedermeyer? Period. Like
Not many, but there'd be a few
right,
centermen I probably would have.
right, and they all won Hart trophies.
Yeah.
So is Misa a Hart Trophy winning player? Because I think that Schaefer's a
Okay.
Norris.
Let me put it to you this way. I don't think he's McDavid, and I don't. Again, I think like McKinnon's like again maybe a little bit of a greasier guy, but like I don't see why like he's really fast. Like Misa's I think he's fast. Like he can.
No, stop. No, take that back.
No, man, he's really good.
No, stop. I will not have anyone talk bad about Nathan McKinnon on this.
I'm not talking bad about him. I'm saying that Misa could be him. Like that's
No, McKinnon runs guys over, dude. He lights guys up.
I know he runs guys over, but he's so quick. Like he's really fast. He makes plays at high speed that way. Like there's not many guys that can do that.
Yes, but I don't think he would ever be Nathan McKinnon.
He's gonna be Michael Misa, man. Like he's gonna be his own guy.
I know, but there's like two guys in the league, and this is how good I think he's been. But there's two guys in the league that I won't even hear it about, and that's McDavid and McKinnon.
Yeah.
Right, like I don't think it's fair to Misa to even talk about those two guys. But we could talk about the next group of guys where you're like, you know what I mean? Like he could be a top 10 forward in the league at one point.
100%. I actually, from what I've seen, I don't even think that's unrealistic at this point.
No, I think it's very realistic.
I mean, Misa's 6'1". Like he's not small. Like we always imply that he's a small guy. He just doesn't.
No, he's not small.
Guys over.
He's not
like,
small. But he's not. No, Nathan McKinnon, dude, is an animal. They're just different. It's just not like
I know they're different, but it's like he can be that. Like he can lead. I think he's good enough to, be a top line center on a team that's a good team. Like I don't think that's unrealistic. So I'm not saying again.
I think he could score and in terms of like what he becomes like maybe like Jack Hughes.
I think he's better defensively than him though.
Yeah, but I don't know that he's. I mean, I don't want to say he's not quite as good offensively because he could be, but maybe if that's your like if that's the range that we're talking about, that's a hell of a player.
So I'm just gonna say something about again, this doesn't matter, and I'm just gonna but statistically, so yeah. So it's a 16-year-old. Like did McKinnon play at 16 and 17, right? He played for Halifax when he was 16 and 17. When McKinnon was like 16, he had 78 points in 58 games. And Misa had 75 points in 67 games. So I mean, like it's not unrealistic of a junior comparison. Like it's not.
But McKinnon is he's the most physical skilled player in the world.
Oh yeah. He's never going to be that. But I'm just saying, like there's translatable skill here. Like this is.
Yeah, I think we're debating him first overall. The guy is unreal. I don't think he's going to be McDavid or McKinnon, but I think just about anyone else is on the table. He could be like a Hughes. I know Kucherov's a winger, but he could be like very cerebral kind of guy like that.
Maybe he's Hughes, but he's better defensively and a little bit stronger.
Yeah, unbelievable player. Like again, I think he's
100-point guy.
Yes, which I think he could be. I do think we could be a 90, 100-point player. And for my money, he's been the best forward I've seen.
Yeah. Well, I think some guys are having like better. Maybe Martone's having like a good year, but like I don't think they're that comparable. I think Misa's the better player.
Well, I think yes. I haven't seen Martone dominate all three zones the way I've seen Misa do it yet.
Yeah. I think honestly, thinking about it, like the first pick of the draft, I think most teams will probably take the defenseman, but I don't like. I think there's the capability of these teams that they don't need the defenseman or think they don't need the defenseman, that they would take the forward. Like I don't think it's, you know what I mean? Like it's not the
Well, I think it's
home run
very
pick.
wide open. I think it's very wide open right now. And I don't want to say like, I mean, Hagens is still very, 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 very much in the mix, right? He's
Yeah.
playing in a new league with new teammates, yada yada yada.
Well,
There's
it's those. I think it's those three, and then kind of
for
drops
me,
off there.
yes. For me, I would agree 100% with that. They have been, for me, the three guys that are in the conversation, but I do think it's a conversation between the three of them. And it's nice that we actually have a year where there actually is something to talk about at the top of the draft.
Yeah. Well, it's but we don't have the Macklin, Celebrini, and then everyone else, right?
No, and I don't. Yeah, no, he's sick. He's
Yeah.
nasty. He's
Oh yeah,
awful.
he
What
looks great. Hopefully, he stays on the ice. Want him to play more.
Who are you taking right now? Gun to your head here, Misa or Schaefer or Hagens? Darren Boyce,
Probably the
Boyce
defenseman.
no expansion team.
Probably the defenseman.
Boring. Disagree.
Begrudgingly saying that, but probably the defenseman.
Weird,
That's the goalie. That's the rec league goalie in me right there.
weird that a goalie would not want to take the defenseman. Make your life easier.
And I have to take the defenseman.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's Matthew Schaefer, and someone we're obviously both extremely excited about. So for our money, he's been the best player that we've had the chance to see this year. And long season to go still, but that's where we stand right now. So this has been by far the longest episode we've done. So I think we should wrap it up for the night.
We might have to split this one up into two parts.
No, absolutely not. We'll just record another one. Who cares? This is great. I mean, if anyone's still listening to this, that's fantastic. 90 minutes of our voices is more than enough for most people. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Please follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Twitter. We're there at Scout Rocco, at Puck Bunker Boys, or at Puck Bunker. You can find us there, and any support would be appreciated. So thanks for listening, and have a great night. And boys, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, have a good night, guys.